What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Overwatch 2 gives Blizzard the opportunity to make a lot of changes and add things that otherwise they wouldn't be able to in just a normal patch. And because of this, last week I put out a video with a list of things that I'd like to see added or changed for Overwatch 2. But that was only a partial list because there's a lot of different things that I would like to see added or changed. And on top of that, you guys also made some pretty great suggestions on things that you would like to see added or changed in Overwatch 2. So this is going to be part 2 of that wish list video for Overwatch 2. If you haven't seen the first part, then I'll put a link to that down below. I'm going to start off with a couple of things that are on the smaller side. I'm not saying that these could be done overnight, but they're probably not going to take a month or two in order to actually do. So number one is the option to randomize character skins and just better random options in general. For example, in the highlight intro section, you can select random, but then it will use all of the ones that you have unlocked. It would be better if there was a checkbox next to each of them, and then you could pick the ones that you wanted to apply to that random effect. And the same thing goes for character skins. However many of them you want, you can click all the different character skins and then hit random, and you'll get a different one every time the match starts. This next one should be, hopefully, very simple to do. A little while ago, Blizzard added the What's New button, which is really cool because anytime there's a new event, you just click on it and it will tell you all the different stuff that you can get during that event. However, it's missing the player icon. So this request is simply to add the player icons to that What's New section. So not only do we get to see the skins and the sprays and the voice lines, but we also get to see all the new player icons as well. And for that matter, allow us to buy the player icons with credits. Please, please. Next up, change the sprays so that they can be used for any character. I don't really see a reason to keep sprays character specific anymore. It's not like it's a voice line or an animation where it would just kind of look weird or sound weird. It's just something that's placed in the map. And this is probably one of the easiest things that Blizzard could do since there are already global sprays in the game. I'm willing to bet that this change for the global sprays from character specific is as simple as modifying a single variable or possibly just checking off a whole bunch of boxes in some sort of behind-the-scenes menu that says, yeah, these characters can use it, and just click them all. Next up, at the end of a competitive match, show the actual change that happened with the SR. Right now, we only get to see a little bit of animation if you win the match, and if you lose, you don't get any change at all. You just get shown whatever the new number is. It would be nice to see, plus 22, minus 20, whatever it happens to be. It would be nice to actually see what the change was. Alright, now let's talk about a few of the ideas that would take a little bit more work and are a bigger request. First is going to be dynamic maps. We already know that Overwatch 2 is going to get improved maps. They're supposed to be bigger, more interesting, all kinds of stuff. Just overall an improvement to the maps. I would like to see more dynamic maps included. What I'm talking about here are the things that, for example, you might see in the Busan Mecha Base with the little metal walls that go up and down. Or even things like on Volskaya where you have the pads that will move around the map. And even elevators on some of the maps can be considered dynamic stuff. But what I would like to see is more things in the map that are moving around. You could have doors that would open and close at set intervals. Now, these wouldn't be the primary path that you would go to the objective, but maybe a side route that gets open after a certain amount of time or something like that. Imagine a Vishkar level that has hard light stuff all over the place. You could have little walkways that create and then they dissolve and all that sort of stuff. Like, there's all kinds of really awesome stuff that you could do in order to make more dynamic maps. Now, for the most part, I don't think they should be player activated where you have to attack a button or something like that. I think it should be just on a regular timer that the map itself controls, so that way neither team has to worry about that sort of thing. But it would just be awesome. Also, I mean, you could even go further and make certain parts of the map destructible, where when you start out, there's some sort of thing that the defenders can use as high ground, and then the attackers, over time, they can actually destroy it, and remove that position from the defender so that they no longer have that point for high ground. There's all kinds of different cool stuff that you could do. I think there's a lot more opportunities for these maps to be more interesting and dynamic. Next up would be a full revamp of the gold medal system. The current system is just bad. It doesn't give any meaningful information to you. There are a couple of ways that you could improve this. It could either compare you to your own stats from a previous match, which would show if you're improving or not, or another option would be to compare you to other players who are using that same character at your rank, as it is comparing your damage done as McCree versus the damage done of the Reinhardt on your team just isn't really worth anything. And speaking of gold, that brings us to the next thing, which is a change for the gold weapon skins. On multiple occasions, the Overwatch devs have talked about how they don't like the gold skins being added as a competitive reward, and they probably never should have done it, because a large amount of the player base really has no interest in the competitive matches. It then creates a problem where many players feel like they're forced into playing competitive in order to get these extra skins for the characters that they like. What I have for a suggestion is something that I've made many, many times in the past, and that is to move the gold skins out of the competitive rewards and instead have it based on some sort of achievement system. This way you could earn the gold skins for the character that you're actually playing, and in addition, it allows for different kinds of skins with scaling achievements. For example, deal 1 million damage with Genji and you unlock a skin. But once you deal 5 million damage, you unlock a different one, and then 10 million, and so on, and so on, and so on. That way, players can participate in a variety of game modes without feeling like they have to be forced into competitive. Custom games would probably have to be excluded because it would be way too easy to farm the damage and the healing, but that brings up another thing. It doesn't need to be just boring stats either. It could be more interesting achievements, like Genji getting 3 eliminations with a single dash, or D.Va could have to get an elimination when she's summoning her mech. All different kinds of things that you could do, and it would be way more interesting and just way better than what we currently have for the gold weapon skin system. The next thing I would like to see is a map editor. This is a really big request. Blizzard is already aware of this, that a lot of people would like to have a map editor. So I kind of didn't even need to include this one, but I would really like to have a map editor. For those of you who might be new to my channel, I created some full reworks of the Horizon Lunar Colony and the Paris map, but unfortunately I had to use the CSGO map editor because Overwatch doesn't have one. So while it was a fun experience to redesign those maps and fix some of the problems that they have, obviously they can't be played in Overwatch. And by the way, if you want to check out either of those two reworks, I'll put links for those in the videos down below. But in addition, the reworks of existing maps, I have a bunch of ideas and some really cool brand new maps that I'd like to be able to make. Games like Team Fortress 2 and CSGO have really awesome map editors. In fact, more than a few of the fan-made maps in those games were later added officially to those respective games. And don't forget, some of the biggest games in the world right now, like Dota 2 and League of Legends, started out as nothing more than a custom map called Defense of the Ancients using Warcraft 3. So combining the existing workshop with the map editor would allow for some really awesome stuff, and yes, a map editor would take a lot of time and effort to make, but I think once it was finished, the amount of content that would be created by that would increase dramatically, and you wouldn't have just Blizzard coming out with new stuff once a month or once every 2 months or something. You would have thousands of players creating new content that everybody can enjoy. It's kind of like the workshop, but to an entirely another level. So map editor would be awesome. The next suggestion is for some kind of a guild system. This has been brought up a couple of times. The Overwatch devs repeatedly said that they would like to add it to the game, but it's not easy to do. I believe Jeff Kaplan mentioned that if they did add guilds, then it would be more of a BattleNet-wide system, so rather than just having your guild for Overwatch, it would be for all the different games that Blizzard makes. And I understand the premise behind this, but I don't really see the need for it. The Overwatch looking for group system is, for the most part, unfortunately, a failure, as most players don't use it. I think one of the reasons is because you're always being put into a group with strangers. Yeah, you can request that you're going to have this kind of a group, but you don't actually know that person. You don't know how they're going to behave. And while certainly you can add people to your friends list, unfortunately there's a limit on how many you can add, a guild system would expand on that. Think of it this way. When you add people to your friends list, it should generally mean that you're confident that they're going to be good teammates. A guild system would expand that group to something that would be sort of a friend of a friend, right? So you would have access to not just the people that you personally have played with and think are good players, but also others who you can have a reasonable amount of confidence in playing with. Oh, sure, it's not always going to be true, but you're still going to be much better off with someone being kind of recommended to you through a guild as opposed to just a complete stranger that you find in the looking for group system. So that is going to be end of my Overwatch 2 wish list. And again, in case you missed it, the part 1 of this will be linked down below. I do have probably some more stuff that I could come up with for Overwatch 2 that I would like to see added, but the next video that I make about Overwatch 2 is going to be my BlizzCon predictions, what I think they're going to be adding, what I think they're going to talk about, and what I think that they're not going to be including, which I think is probably going to make some people sad. But that's, that's just kind of, it is what it is. But for now, let me ask you once again, what would you like to see in Overwatch 2? Let me know down below. A big thanks to all the Paragons and other channel members for all your support. If you'd like to become one and grab some cool rewards, click the join button down below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like before you leave. And remember, always blame the controller because it's never your fault.